Are you a woman standing at a crossroads, eager for change? It's time to connect with your authentic and empowered self at Boss Leap. Join Dr. Sylvia Morris and Dr. Angela Walker in this empowering community where real-life stories of courageous and talented women inspire and motivate. Engage in honest conversations that foster well-being, drawing from our own journeys. Let us guide you toward profound growth and transformation in both your personal and professional life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Sylvia Morris and Dr. Angela Walker.
Hello, and welcome back to Boss Leap podcast. I am Dr. Angela Walker, and I am here with my co-host, Dr. Sylvia Morris. And today we had an amazing guest. She's actually a return guest for us, Sheia Gibbs. And she is talking all about her new memoir, The Process, walking through it. And we had so much to talk about, but I think we only hit the tip of the iceberg in what her book has to share. I started and could not put it down. But Sylvia, tell me, she has so many sayings, and some of them come from her mother, Mrs. Mozelle. And one of the sayings was, "You better talk to your fool self." And I laughed out loud when I read that, and I could completely relate. Curious, what does that bring to mind for you in terms of talking to your full self?
Angela, I say to myself,
and let me just say,
together.
That's fool as in FOOL, not your FUL.
So sometimes I have to talk to my full self often. And many times I'm saying, get it together. You say you want X. So let's say it is about me. I'm on a journey to better control my blood sugars. I am pre-diabetic. Mm-hmm. And it's like you say you want to have better blood sugar control, but you want to eat McDonald's French fries or you want to have Talenti vanilla caramel ice cream. We'd love for them. We love that. But I have to talk to my full self because you can't have that. I can't eat like I was 35 anymore. And everything in moderation. So me talking to myself says, okay, long term, what I do today impacts tomorrow and 5 years, a decade from now. So my behavior now, meaning watching my diet and then movement. You talk a lot about not necessarily exercise, but moving. Yes. My goal is to, when I can, walk twice a day. So I walk at the beginning of my day to get my day started off right, even if it's only 20 minutes. And then I also, if the weather permits, I walk at the end of the day to kind of debrief and to let go of stuff. So talking to my full self helps me move and controls what I put in my mouth. What about you, Angela?
Oh, I have many conversations with myself about the foolishness that can happen. What I reflect on the most is, I talk about this a lot, but making the decision to make a change in career, the way that I was navigating that career, and thinking that doing things differently by doing things either in a large group practice or a smaller group practice, or with whether it be OB hospitalist, thinking that things were going to change in terms of not getting enough sleep and long hours. And it's like being the hamster on the wheel and expecting, something to change, and you keep running on that wheel. And so for me, it was, after taking a break, realizing nothing is going to change. You can go back to a different office or different practice scenario, but the way that you feel after not sleeping for 16 to 24 hours, that's never going to change. And so kind of making the one thing that she talks about in her book is not making a decision to change your situation is actually making a decision.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
and so it was a matter of making that decision and then moving forward with it. And
Mhm.
I'm so grateful that I did, but I suppose I had to make the changes and make the foolish decisions that didn't serve me well to understand what it really truly was like being on the other side of that decision and moving forward with it. So that's what comes to mind for me is doing the same thing, but expecting a different result. I think that's a foolish way to move through life. So if
So
that's
you
something
had to
that's not
go
serving,
through, as
I
we all
did.
do, you had to go through the process,
Yes, the
right?
process.
That
That's
dirty
it.
middle that Sheia talks
Yes,
about.
very good. There
Yes.
you yes, very good. And that is what this whole book is about. So wise. So I'll let you introduce her.
Absolutely. So we welcome to Boss Sleep Podcast, Sheia Grant Gibbs. Welcome back to Boss Sleep. My name is Dr. Sylvia Morris, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Angela Walker. And today we have another brave woman sharing her bold story. Today, we are lucky to have Sheia Grant Gibbs, who was also our guest on episode number 9. Today, she is going to talk about her book, newly published or soon to be published book, The Process, Walking Through It When Reality Doesn't Look Like the Dream. Sheia, welcome to Boss Sleep, or
How
welcome
are
back.
you? Thank you so much. I know. What an honor. I'm so grateful to both of you. It's
We're
my pleasure to
so
be back.
wonderful. So excited to have you back. And one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you is in honor of your new book, which we'll get all into. And the title alone is a full mood, The Process, Walking Through It. And what I'd want to ask you is, what were you walking through when you wrote this?
Well, initially the book started out as a journal. It wasn't really a book. I was kind of I started it kind of parallel or walking listing things in regards to our future plans and things that we wanted to have happen. And then during that process, we found out about my mom taking ill with dementia. And so it really became this journal of me putting down my feelings because my mother was the person that I would come to when everything went wrong or just exciting. And I would go to her. Well, this was one of those situations to where we found out this bombshell dropped on us. And I realized quickly that, she was going through something herself and I couldn't bring my feelings to her. So, because I've always been a journaler, it was just something that I started to write down my feelings. And that's initially how it started. It was just one of those things to where, again, I was just putting down all the things because it was happening so fast. And I was just trying to process what I was going through and still be strong for my mother.
Well, it's certainly for me, as I I have shared with you, I mean, I've started reading it and it does for me kind of feel like a journal. It's just like a continual process of what's happening. But it was riveting, all the things that you talked about, because it is relevant in, my life as a as a daughter of a mother who's aging. And granted, not with walking in your path with dementia and Alzheimer's, but with all the thoughts that could go along with that and caring for, a mother and, you've got a child and your spouse and all of the things, and just an incredible, I think, documentation of what one person's life has been like, but then all the things that you share with us. So I know we'll get into it, but I champion the book, and I think it is a great read for, anyone at any stage in life just traveling through and navigating. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was very kind. Thank you so much.
And Sheia, did you know you wanted to do a memoir when you started writing? How did you have sort of the internal confidence to say, the things that are happening in my life are really important enough to share with the entire world?
That's a great question. Absolutely not. I kept hearing from clients. Now they would say things like, "You should write a book. You should write a book." And in the beginning, I would just brush it off and laugh, really, because I'm thinking to myself, I just think back to when I was younger, and my mom, as a teacher herself in education, that was just one of the things that she would berate me on and tell me I couldn't go outside until I learned how to read. And I actually struggled with reading and was in remedial English class. So, no, I never thought about writing a book. It just never dawned on me. So, when I would hear people say that, I just thought it was funny. And then I had this client, his name is Graham, and he's in literature. And he said it to me. And I think that was like the first time I actually started to take it seriously because I just I kept hearing it. So
Wow.
that's when it became a thought.
And many of your chapter titles are like questions or just bold truths. Why did you choose that structure? Is that, and I'm assuming since you wrote it as like a more of a journal, the titles you came up with those after the fact. Is that
It was. So
correct?
going back to Graham, he's in literature. And when he told me that was really the first time I actually had a deep thought about, okay, I could possibly have a book. And I told him, I said, the only thing I can really think of that I have to say is that I have this journal. And I said, let me give you context because it's a complete run-on sentence. Like there's no punctuation. And so he was like, I would love to look at it. And, if you have something, I'll let you know. And he told me, he was like, Sheia, it's very intense. He said, but you have a book. And he is the one that did the initial editing for me. And before I went to an editing company, and he's the one that I give him all the praise and inspiration for once he read it, helping me coming up with the titles actually. And I'm like, oh my God, that goes perfectly with everything that I'm saying. It just totally fits. And I loved it.
Very nice.
And certainly some of your chapter titles are, and so the journey began on a deeper
Yes.
level, onward and upwards.
Yes.
And when I saw the chapter titles, I could think about our conversations.
Yes.
So that just made the whole book hit home. And certainly I always think about your mom, Miss Mozelle. Can you talk about, I know you mentioned her in the acknowledgement, but how did her spirit kind of walk with you as you wrote your memoir?
He walks with me all the time. And it's the interesting part of it is that I literally can clearly remember when I was younger, my mother she wasn't a person that was like fun in the sense that she played all the time. But
I'm not one of your little friends.
right, I'm not your little friend. And she was always teaching you lessons, but you had to learn how to have fun within her teaching you lessons. And I just remember when I was younger, sometimes it would just seem overwhelming because I would just always think, can we just have some downtime? But now, literally all those things that she's taught me is how I live my life. So I talk to my brother all the time, and we're always saying not just that we miss her, but he'll say something or I'll say something that's just like mom. And we're constantly saying, you sound just like mom. You sound just like mom. So her presence is just here. And even how I'm raising Grant and just being a wife and mother and even being an instructor, it just oozes out of me constantly.
Can you share one of Miss Mozelle's expressions?
Yes. Well, I can tell you like two things I'm thinking about just because Grant is at the age of transition now where he just graduated and he's in college. And I can remember her saying, now that I'm in this space, she would tell me, home is not, in the space that you're in now, home is not for comfort, it's for safety. And I'm like, I don't understand that. And what she meant by it was, I'm giving you the opportunity to lock in and stay focused, get your degree or your certification. And this is a time that you have to, while you're here with me, to do that, not play around. This is not the time for you to come into your own or try to become a full-fledged adult while you're in my house. So basically, she was just letting me know that you have a limited time and you need to make the most of it. And when you get on your own and can provide for yourself, that's when you can do all the things that you want to do. She also used to say, to me that I thought, and I use this principle a lot. If people's words are not, if their actions are not aligning with their words, don't believe them.
Mhm.
That's a powerful one.
How about that?
That's a
Yes.
powerful one. I loved all the Miss Mozelle isms in your book. Tell me a little bit more about you better talk to your fool self.
Oh yes, that one was.
I was laughing out loud when I was reading.
She used to tell me that all the time in her, in the 3 days rants of being highly upset with me. Yeah, she would say, you need to talk to your food self. And, I remember just because what I would do when when she was calm and we were in a good mood, I would talk to her. And I would say, why do you say that? And she just would say, there are times when you need to talk to yourself so that you can kind of debrief and analyze what is going on. And she's so right. There's been times where I take baths and I get in that bathtub and I will download the day or I will play something out because I know that I didn't really respond the way I needed to respond. So I'll play it out because I know I'm going to repeat that situation again. And I know I want to respond differently. And I will talk it through literally to myself out loud so that I'll be prepared for when I approach that situation again. It's that one alone has helped me so much in regards to even controlling my feelings as well.
What a lesson. Wow. I received that one. Well, you can either not acknowledge what you've done wrong, which a lot of people do because they don't do the debrief, but then trying to play through how you would do it differently.
Absolutely.
I think is, that is valuable advice. And I
Yeah.
have so many things that I took and have written down, but that will be another one.
Yes. That was definitely one of the ones that helped me. So, and like I say, I use that one to this day. And it's amazing how I talk to my son and even in class, I share that with the learners all the time. It just helps you so much play things out from your perspective as well as someone else's perspective.
In that you write about fog, that unclear, messy middle, and then light, which feels like clarity or divine direction. How did those ideas show up in your journey?
Well, when you're watching someone lose their mind in front of you, the way that showed up in regards to, once you're having that fog, because there's a situation that's happening and you both are experiencing it completely different. My mother was experiencing it in the form of losing her independence, being in a space where she was completely not used to in regards to being a single mom and now having to be told that we have to, take the car keys away from you, or now you're going to have to stay somewhere else, or, all these new things. And she's always prided herself on being this independent person. But at the same time, you as a child are navigating this space of having to be caretaker for your parent, which means that you got to learn how to, like my mother, I was the youngest and she used to call me Pooh. And I loved being Pooh. That was my name, kind of like wrote that out. I act like Pooh, but, as her caretaker, I remember thinking in the beginning, she didn't really, she wasn't really responding to me the way I needed her. And after talking to my food self, thinking, what's going on here? I need for her to respond. But because she was calling me Pooh and I was still acting like Pooh, again, my actions, right? That's the response that I was getting from her. And I had to navigate knowing how to reshift to caretaker so that my mom could respond to me in that way. When when business needed to be taken care of or when I needed for her to do something, I wasn't Pooh. I was serious. So when you have those two things running parallel, you go through this fog yourself because, again, she was my person. And now she's not someone that I can tell these things or, she can give me words of wisdom. I'm having to do those things myself. So, you start thinking about what kind of principles can you put in place to navigate this space? And one of the things that I did was gratefulness, just waking up every morning when I was getting ready and like literally listing out everything I could think of until I ran out to be grateful. And that just became like a way of life because I'm looking at someone lose things And although, yes, I'm experiencing the things that I'm experiencing, God is still good, and I should be very grateful. And I have the privilege of actually doing something that my mom was able to do something for me and having the support from my husband and my brother to be able to be in the space to do it.
So you're talking
Fantastic.
about you get to do something, and
Mhm.
we have been talking about that concept over the last several episodes.
Mhm.
But also, how do you keep your faith? Because your mother has a disease that is progressive, and how do you still stay grateful and then also just remain rooted in your faith?
Remembering your why, you
Mhm.
know, a part of that talking to your food self, a lot of that came into place. I would constantly have to remind myself of why. And in the midst of the journal, especially around about the time where we found out that my mom was ill and navigating this and going further along through this, I realized then, as Benny and I would always discuss about the legacy piece in regards to what we want to leave Grant, I'm like, this is what I want to leave him. I want to leave him and his future family a process in real time of what it looks like. Because oftentimes when you see people, you see the end, right? And people kind of brushed over the middle part, But I wanted to document in real time what I was feeling, so that people know that when they get into these spaces, including my son and now for everybody else, that think it not strange. It's not strange. And you can keep going. Those feelings that you're having, they're normal, right? But you can keep moving. So those were the things. It was, being grateful and understanding that, you know, in this gratefulness, being able to look at everything that you're dealing with, just keep moving. Because when in the motion, you just never know like where you wind up, and you get better and you stay more grateful. And it just allows you to just continue.
Right. And I think my favorite expression of yours, or perhaps it's your brother's, is that it's a reminder it's not always Six Flags. So that
Yes.
messy middle, it is
Yes.
not always fun and games. But if you keep moving, then you continue to make progress and you eventually move toward the light.
You do. And I also realized, you know, when you're growing, that growth is connected to losses. I realized that during that phase. Anytime you decide on any level, if you want to say, oh, I want to lose weight or I want to do this, in making that statement, it's also, you need to identify, what am I willing to lose? What am I willing to sacrifice, to put down so that I can get this outcome? And so for me,
But I
knowing
don't
that.
wanna give up anything, Sheia. I want it all. I want all the cake. I want everything.
Exactly.
And ice cream.
Exactly. And that's why this is so important, because especially when you have, people, kids or younger people in your family, that's around you, they need to understand that in this world of instant success sometimes, that in most cases, everything is a process. From the moment you say you want to do something till you get into that outcome, there's an in between phase. And oftentimes you don't know what you have to deal with in that in between phase until you get in there. So remembering your why and understanding that loss is a part of growth kind of keeps you from feeling like, you're the victim in the situation.
Thank you for that. You talk about belief in yourself, and you give so many examples, and you're so, I think, vulnerable in that a part of your story is being truly transparent in how you grew up, the dynamics, of your family, how that, I think, played a role in how you responded to life. The things that you did well in developing business, and then the things that you did bad and failing in that business, and you're very transparent in how you felt about that, almost like ashamed, but then, later on it's the pride that you have. There's so much that I think you have to share in your story. So I just want to know, what did it look like? I'm thinking in this season, but you're really talking about many different seasons of your life in the book. But more
Right.
importantly, in this season that you're got the new diagnosis of your mom, trying to navigate that but also believing that you have a new business that you're wanting to get off the ground and you don't give up on it. What did it look like?
Oftentimes it was so challenging because, and I was transparent in that book because I was writing down like literally what I felt. I was, you want to be there for your mom. I'm grateful to be able to be in this space.
Yeah.
However, I did have dreams. We were planning to have these things and, do these things on the other side personally. So I struggled with that a lot, going back and forth, feeling bad about it, a lot of times talking to my brother and him reassuring me, we're doing the best that we can. And it's not wrong of you to have these things running parallel together. We're multifaceted people. And that's why even in the book, when I talked about not wanting my mom to come to live with us, even though we had the space, that was something that I had to really pray
I thought
about.
that was powerful, everything you had to say around that, but I'll let you finish. I have some thoughts.
Yes, the space and, I kept hearing a lot of things from people, in regards to just, you have the space, she can be in your house. But my concern was I want to still be a good wife. I want to still be a good mother. And I want to do these other things in that order. And I knew that, there's a lot of people involved as well. So it's like, what's the best possible care for this situation for everybody involved? For everybody involved.
Including yourself.
Exactly, including myself. So
And
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I remember reading there was a woman in your life that actually had some knowledge about, taking care of an elder and someone with dementia. And sometimes it's just that person that can give you some clarity,
Absolutely.
and being open to, listening versus listening to everybody else that says, no, you've got room, you can do this.
Yes.
They don't truly understand the entire picture of, what that looks like for you. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah, she was an intricate part. It was actually my best friend's mom. She was an intricate part in helping me come to that decision because she's also a nurse. And she was like, this disease is progressive and you do not have everything that you need to provide the care. And I also struggle with because, oftentimes people think when you think about facilities, you think about just leaving the person there. And that wasn't my thought process at all. I was there with my mother every day. I just understood that when I needed to be a mother for Grant or I needed to be a wife, I needed that extra help so that she wouldn't get her lapse in care wouldn't be, deflated because I'm trying to juggle too many things at one time,
Yeah.
Right. And I just want to sort of pull apart a few threads here. And when we're talking about elder care for someone that has dementia, which is an actual medical diagnosis, that requires special skills, it requires special care, professional care.
Yes.
And being the daughter, being Pooh or being Sheia doesn't necessarily equip you for that. And even myself as a medical professional, I wouldn't be able to do that. Out 24-hour a day, 7-day a week help. So I just wanted to make certain that our listeners understand that dementia as a diagnosis, it's not just like your family member come in and they're completely self-sufficient. They're going to help, with the cooking and they're going to pick up your child from, after school, all that. It is not that at all.
Exactly.
And so, Sheia, thanks for sharing that with us. And you clearly were committed to the process. So, on those really hard days, how did you stay committed to the process?
It was my faith and constantly putting my why in front of me. I would constantly go over the journal. Benny and I would talk. My brother and I, we had meetings constantly and just talking about remembering and keeping the main thing the main thing. What are you trying to achieve?
I love that one. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's more than the
Yes.
Six Flags.
That's right. It's, some things are staples, they don't go anywhere. And that's, these are like true principles on how I live my life when I'm going through these types of things. I'm always trying to figure out why. I even talked about the book and fasting. I
Yes.
did that. And it didn't, that actually started with a shopping thing, from me with shopping. And then it kind of developed, there was a season where I was doing it in regards to the book as well. And just kind of what I deduced from fasting is that it simplifies things. It takes all the things off the boat. And what you have left is the real thing. It's kind of like when you sifting through stuff and you pour things through the sifter and all of the extra things come out, but you're left with the important things. And that's what fasting does. It brings clarity. So it allows you to be able to identify when you feel like you're getting lost and when you're that fog, what the real thing is so that you can get back on track or even stay on track.
And can you share with our audience what that fasting process looked like for you? I read about the shopping fasting, which I thought was a novel idea, a great idea actually. But then you're also talking about fasting in terms of what we usually think of in terms of food. What does that process look like for you?
Yeah, so I'll give you two folds. In regards to fasting, it looked like, I remember just years ago, my very first one was like a year fast from shopping because I just could not identify why. Even when I told myself I wasn't going to shop, I would find myself.
Sylvia, you have to just close your ears right now.
She and I have been having these conversations for years, and I have my moments.
Yes. I mean, it was just like, when I would even tell myself I wasn't going to do it, I still would find myself there. And talking to my food self, I pondered and said, something is not right about that.
Why are you here?
Yes, what's going on? It's got to be something deeper because when you say you don't want to do something, you should be able to not do it. So I was like, I couldn't really pinpoint it, what the real issue was. And so I just remember hearing like a message, one of my bishop, and he talked about it. And I said, at that time, I have food allergies, so food wasn't really a big deal at that time. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to zone in on this, not really realizing that it was going to lead me to a discovery of a lot of things that I had been dealing with in childhood and how I masked it through or dealt with it or soothed it or, catered to it through shopping. I had no idea.
That's fascinating. Yeah, how you brought that out and how you learned that through the process of the fast.
Yes. And then as time went on and when I started to implement it in regards to going through the situation with my mother, it really became like more intense because when you deny yourself for food, things get really real. I like to eat. I have food allergies, but I like to eat the things that I like to eat. And like I say, you get to understand all these things that we tell ourselves about what we really need. And a lot of times they're really wants. You identify what are the things that are really important and what you need and what you really don't have to have and how you really can survive without having certain things. It clears things up and it simplifies things.
Tell us, how did you protect your peace while revisiting some of these harder truths that you're discovering?
Yes, that's a great question because when I was reading this, going through the editing process, I said to myself aloud several times, if I'd known that I was actually writing this for a book, I probably would not have been this transparent. I said that, but I say that to say, when I think about where I am now and the legacy and when I'm instructing and when I want to give back and even when I stand before the learners, I truly connect to them when I'm most transparent. When they see certain things or they see outcomes, if I don't connect that the story behind that, that's what grips everybody. And with all the things that separates us, those are the things that connects us and allows us to say, here, this is where I feel the same thing. And then you can start to be able to grow from that when you see this person went through something. This just wasn't handed to them. They fought. And I call this book really a mental template. I used my story, but I even say, on the cover, on the back, don't get distracted by my story. Infuse your own story with this because we all feel these things when we're going through crisis, when we're trying to get from one side to the next side. These are the type of things that we struggle with and oftentimes never talk about,
That's so true.
Don't get distracted. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Sheia, I know that you walk Sometimes I have the privilege of walking with you, and we walk and talk, and ends up happening is maybe we walk 2.5, 3 miles, sometimes three and a
Yes.
half miles,
Yes.
and I have to stop you because I'm like, my knee hurts now, and
Yes.
it's been a long time. But what are the other methods that you both protect your peace, but then also practice self-care?
Yes, walking is definitely one of the things. I can easily walk 2 and 3 hours at a time and not even feel because again, it's just where I relax. I'm not listening to, and I often tell my learners, they're like, Michelle, what are you listening to? At home. I'm like, I don't listen to music when I'm in the car. I don't listen to anything because that's the time when I'm with my thoughts. When I am debriefing everything, going through everything. That's
Quiet car. Mhm.
Yes, exactly. And when I'm walking, I have that time to meditate and to just be.
Mhm. I
To just
find that I find that right now in our society, and we talk to people, many do not take the time to value silence.
yes.
And sometimes it's because when you're silenced, you do hear yourself. And
Yes.
you
Mhm.
have to confront, true realities, good or bad, and some people are just not equipped in doing so, but I think there's just the value in the quiet times and exactly what you did in the journaling,
Yes.
and I probably cut you off in
No.
your caretaking in terms of how you take care of yourself, but I think the journal in and of itself has to be cathartic in terms of being able to get it all out. But then you also mentioned you're going back and you're reading this, so it's actually helpful in terms
Yes.
of, guiding you. So I did want to ask you, because you allude to the fact that you continue to have faith through the process of you, your husband, and I know your brother in
Yeah.
your business in terms of buying, rehabbing, and I'm assuming in selling homes. And I don't know
Mhm.
how you package that, but can you tell us a little bit more of what that looks like now for you?
Yeah. So we do multifamily units and so we have a unit and then we have some land that we plan on developing as well. And then so that's basically we're structuring everything because my husband is near retirement. So next year he wants to retire. So, that's just the plan is to, purchase our homes,
Mhm.
replace income. And we have just like a set strategy of like when he's coming out, when I'm coming out, when my brother's coming out, and how many homes it will take basically to do that.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, Shia, where can people find the process walking through it when reality doesn't look like the dream?
Yes, it will be everywhere. It will be at Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, all the places, Amazon as well. So all the places where you find the books, it will be.
And by the time we have the taping for our listeners, I know I've read it on the flip book. Is that
Yes, it'll be online. And I'm also having a book signing that's coming up as well. So I just received information from the publishers sending off the books and they're waiting. I'm waiting to get the number so that everything can be officially dated.
That is
Awesome.
beautiful.
Awesome.
Cannot wait. Cannot
Congratulations.
wait. Thank you
Yes.
so much. It's so
Yes,
much
you girls are on the
wisdom.
list to be there.
Oh,
Yay.
well, I absolutely, absolutely would not miss it, and can't wait to share it with our audience. So we'll definitely share all of the links.
Thank you
So,
so much. I totally
Shia Grant
appreciate
Gibbs,
everything.
yes, we thank you so much for coming back and talking about your book, the process walking through it when reality doesn't look like the dream. We thank you for being a repeat and return guest
I'm
here
so
on Boss
honored.
Leap. We appreciate the support. You have supported us when we had our book and
Yes,
coming to our book signing here in Atlanta. And you are truly a friend of the show, and you are
Absolutely.
my sister from another mister. So thank you.
that's right. That's right. Well, and I want to just thank you guys, both of you guys, for this opportunity to be on the show a second time. And, I just love what you guys are doing. I love this podcast. It's great. I showed it to my learners and they loved it. They're
Oh,
like, Shia, can we see it again? I'm like, absolutely. We do wellness. And so that was one of the things that we introduced to the class. So I'm just completely grateful.
Love that. Thank you so much. And I can't wait for everyone else to be able to get I think the insight that I got just from reading your story, your messages, your life lessons. And I can't only see this being a media that will help thousands, if not millions of people. So we're appreciative.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much.
Sheia, may you be well.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Bye.
Angela, that was a fantastic conversation with Sheia Grant Gibbs. And I cannot tell you, there's so many, I'm going to call them Sheia-isms that
Yes.
I have been left with. Share with us some Sheia-isms that you were left with.
Oh, so many. And I'll tell you, there were so many more in the book itself. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of books out there, kind of self-help. But this one for me was very relatable in terms of, life in general. But one that stuck out that I don't know that I would call it a Shiaism, but when she started talking about running parallel, and for me, I can, talk about being the role of a wife, being a mother, a daughter, and with elder care, my life as a physician, speaker, coach, and podcaster now, and that all of those things are okay. They're all kind of running, parallel. Not everything is
That's a
moving
wide
fast.
highway.
It is a big highway. Not quite 8 lanes, but it's a lot. And so it's a matter of, keeping, one step or taking one step in front of each other and moving forward. Not every car in the lane is going to be traveling at the same speed.
Right.
And you can still navigate those pathways and be successful, but also not feel bad about maybe pushing one car further than the other at a particular time, right? Because there are some people that would say, well, if your mom is ill, then that should be the only thing on your plate. But then you leave everything else, to have
And that's
accidents
not
in the
all
other
that
area.
you are. Mhm.
Right. Right. And we shouldn't, I think what I took away from the book is you shouldn't feel bad about that either. And in her case, certainly she was making what we know to be a very appropriate and really good decision in terms of taking care of her mom. But I liked the visual of running parallel tracks. And I liked, the reminder always to remember your why. She writes
Yes.
quite a bit about waking up and, either feeling, depressed or down and then just coming back to the notion of remembering your why, which is, so important. And then lastly, she said in both ways, growth is connected to losses, but also when you go through loss, on the other side is growth. Now,
Yeah.
I will beg the difference. Not everybody grows from that. And
Right.
so,
How about that? And
right.
growth is intentionality. Yes.
And so I liked her idea of kind of taking the and I don't know if she talked about this or it's in her book, but in a bath, just kind of going through all of the day or what happened, replaying it, and then actually kind of role playing how she would do it differently. So if you do have a loss or a mistake, learn from that, but maybe role play, like, or write it or journal it. And how would you do that differently? What did you learn from that, and what do you not want to do in the future? Yeah. So that was a mouthful, but I learned so much. So how about you?
There were so many things. My favorite Shia isms, I'm going to call them, and she always reminds me that everything is a process. I can be impatient by nature. And she's like, just remember the process and don't get distracted. So don't get distracted by whether it's other people seeming to be further along or on their journey, being distracted by other folks' journey and not staying in my lane, if we
Yeah.
use the highway analogy. And then also keeping the main thing, the main
The
thing.
main thing.
So
I
what's
get that one.
important
Yeah.
and
I've kept
staying
that one
focused
around.
on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love, love, love. So
Absolutely.
Sheia Grant Gibbs is such an example of a brave woman sharing her bold stories and making really big leaps. And we are so grateful to have had her here on Boss Leap podcast.
Absolutely, and cannot wait to see how things unfold. We know the trajectory is just unlimited in turn once her book is out, which should be right in time for our listeners and will be on all platforms. And can't wait for her book signing. So, and
Absolutely.
to our listeners, hopefully something that you heard today will be inspiring to you. We know it certainly was for us, and we're very grateful for you being along for the ride and taking the time to perhaps learn something for yourself that might elevate your day, your week, your month, your year. And we appreciate the likes, we appreciate the subscribes on YouTube. And certainly, if you have any ideas, or feedback, you can go to bossleappodcast.com. That's boss, LEAP, podcast.com. And until we meet again, may you be well.
May you be well.
That's a wrap on another episode of Boss Leap. May this conversation enlighten your path toward personal growth and professional empowerment. For more thought-provoking and eye-opening discussions like this one, head to our website at bossleappodcast.com. Always remember to celebrate your wins and trust yourself. A positive mindset can push you out of your comfort zone and into far greater heights. Until next time, may you be well.
Before we go, there's one more thing the lawyers have asked us to include. You know, it's the legal language. And you know how doctors love lawyers. This podcast is presented only for educational and entertainment purposes. Although we are doctors, on this show, we are just your friends. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of your physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. Understood? Awesome. We'll see you in the next episode.